Welcome to Crime Era channel where every crime tells a story. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so. Every cult has a strategy, and every strategy begins with the same question. Who will listen? The answer is rarely the secure, the grounded, or the surrounded. Instead, it is those who walk through life with an ache of emptiness. The lonely, the grieving, the searching. Loneliness is not just sadness. It is a biological state. Studies show that the brain in loneliness reacts much like it does in hunger, desperate, distracted, searching for relief. And cults, knowingly or instinctively, exploit this hunger. They scan public spaces, schools, train stations, even online forums, looking for those who linger just a little too long, who glance around as if waiting to be invited in. To these seekers, the cult offers more than companionship. It offers belonging, family, and purpose. But what begins as comfort will slowly become confinement. The warm embrace at the start is not love, it is bait. Behind the smiles lies a system of control, ready to turn need into dependency and dependency into chains. Connection is not optional for humans, it is survival. From birth, our brains are wired to seek closeness, to mirror others, to belong. Loneliness, then, is not weakness. It is a survival alarm, a signal that something vital is missing. And yet, in a world where technology connects us more than ever, loneliness has become an epidemic. Cults thrive in this epidemic. They understand that someone who is starved for connection will welcome even counterfeit love. So they offer a feast, constant companionship, shared rituals, endless affirmation. For someone who has felt invisible, this is overwhelming, intoxicating even. The brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals triggered by genuine love. The body feels safe, the heart feels wanted. But what the recruit does not realize is that this sudden flood of belonging is carefully engineered. It is not natural. It is manufactured. And like all drugs, it comes with withdrawal, dependence, and control. Who joins a cult? The stereotype says the gullible or the foolish. But the truth is more complex. Cults often target intelligent, creative, compassionate people, but at vulnerable moments. A breakup, the death of a loved one, moving away from home, graduating without clear direction. These transitions shake the foundation of identity. And in that uncertainty, the cult appears with ready answers. Recruiters do not see weakness, they see opportunity. The person at a crossroads is not broken, they are open. And openness, in the hands of manipulators, becomes the crack through which control seeps. The perfect recruit is not defined by lack of intelligence, but by timing, caught in the fragile moment where loneliness and uncertainty overlap. In that intersection, the cult does not just offer answers. It offers the illusion of certainty, and in a world of chaos, certainty feels like salvation. The first tactic is as old as romance itself, overwhelming affection. This is known as love bombing. The newcomer is smothered with smiles, hugs, compliments. Strangers act like lifelong friends. Within hours, the recruit hears, "We're so glad you're here. You're special. You belong with us." For someone starved of affection, this flood is intoxicating. It feels real, and in that moment, it is nearly impossible to question. Love bombing triggers the same reward centers in the brain as falling in love. The recruit is high on attention, disarmed by kindness. But this affection is not unconditional. It is strategic. It is the hook in the fish's mouth. Once caught, the affection will be withdrawn and returned only when obedience is shown. What feels like love is actually the foundation of control. Loneliness is an emptiness, and cults rush to fill it. New recruits are rarely left alone. Members invite them to meals, to ceremonies, to study groups, to late-night talks. Their phone buzzes constantly with messages of care. The silence of solitude is replaced with a chorus of voices. Slowly, the group becomes the recruit's primary social world. Old friends fade away, not by force at first, but by neglect. Why spend time with outsiders when this new family seems so devoted? The void of loneliness feels cured. But it is not true healing. It is replacement. A dangerous replacement, because the new bonds come with conditions. Stay, obey, conform. The group that promises to end loneliness is, in fact, constructing a new cage, one padded with companionship, but a cage nonetheless. Loneliness does not just ache for company, it aches for meaning. The vulnerable often wrestle with questions of identity and purpose. Why am I here? What is my life worth? Cults are quick to answer. They offer a script. You are chosen. You are special. You have a mission no one else can fulfill. This is more than flattery, it is existential relief. To the lonely, who may feel forgotten or invisible, the promise of destiny is irresistible. Purpose binds them tighter than love ever could. Because while love may be doubted, a mission feels larger than the self. The recruit is told their suffering has meaning, that their loneliness was preparation for this higher calling. And so they trade uncertainty for direction. What they cannot see is that their purpose is not their own. It is the leader's, repackaged as destiny. And once tied to purpose, the chains grow heavier, harder to break. No one joins a cult thinking it is a cult. It begins with something harmless, an invitation, a study group, a free meal, a yoga class, a casual chat at the park. The recruit does not see chains, only kindness. Invitations are tailored to the vulnerable. The grieving are invited to healing sessions. The lonely are invited to family dinners. The anxious are promised peace through meditation. The group adapts like water to whatever container the recruit provides. What feels like coincidence is calculation. Behind the casual invitation lies a tested formula. Get them in the door, get them comfortable, and make sure they come back tomorrow. And slowly, with each visit, the line between casual community and total devotion begins to blur. One of the most subtle tactics of recruitment is mirroring. Members reflect back the recruit's emotions, gestures, even phrases. This creates the eerie sense of instant connection. The lonely person thinks, they understand me. They're like me. In truth, it is deliberate. Social mirroring is hardwired in the brain as a sign of trust. When we see ourselves reflected in others, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released. The cult turns psychology into weaponry. The vulnerable recruit, desperate to be seen, now feels recognized in a way they may not have for years. What they do not realize is that this reflection is a mask, worn for the moment. Beneath it lies an agenda, to mold the recruit, not mirror them. But by the time that mask slips, the bond is already sealed. Cults do not just recruit with hugs, they recruit with stories. Around fires, in living rooms, in online videos, members share testimonies, tales of despair before the group, and joy after joining. These narratives are rehearsed, polished to perfection. Each story is bait on a hook, designed to resonate with the vulnerable. A grieving widow hears of someone who found peace. An anxious teenager hears of someone who discovered confidence. A lost wanderer hears of someone who finally found direction. Storytelling bypasses logic. It strikes the heart. And once the heart is moved, the mind works overtime to justify staying. The recruit thinks they are choosing freely. In reality, they are being ushered into a narrative larger than themselves, a story that always ends the same way, with loyalty to the leader. To the lonely, the word family carries enormous weight. Cults weaponize it. New recruits are immediately called brother, sister, beloved. They are told they have finally found their true family, one that will never abandon them. This is powerful, especially for those whose biological families are fractured, distant, or gone. The group creates rituals of intimacy, shared meals, songs, collective prayers. A stranger becomes a sibling overnight. But beneath the warmth is a darker truth. This new family comes with conditions. Loyalty is demanded. Doubt is punished. And the love that feels unconditional today will vanish if obedience falters tomorrow. It is not family. It is leverage disguised as kinship. Cults do not rely on words alone. They overwhelm the senses. Music, chanting, incense, rhythmic movements, all combine to create altered states of consciousness. For the vulnerable, who may already feel fragile, These experiences are deeply persuasive. The brain in these states becomes more suggestible, more open to new beliefs. Loneliness fades, replaced by euphoria. The recruit feels something transcendent, something larger than themselves. They mistake this neurochemical high for spiritual awakening. In truth, it is carefully orchestrated psychology. What feels like divine presence is, in fact, human manipulation. And once the recruit equates the group with transcendence, leaving becomes nearly unthinkable. Every step of recruitment leads to the same pivot: isolation. The recruit is gently encouraged to spend more time with the group and less with outsiders. "They don't understand you like we do," members say. "They're holding you back from your true potential." At first, it is subtle, but over time, outside relationships weaken. Calls go unanswered. Old hobbies are abandoned. Soon, the recruit's social universe shrinks to a single point: the group. And in that narrowing circle, the cult's voice grows louder, clearer, and harder to resist. What started as an invitation has now become a separation. The walls of the cage are invisible, but they are closing in. At the center of every cult is not just a doctrine, but a person, the leader. Vulnerable recruits are slowly conditioned to view this figure as their anchor, their savior, their substitute parent. The lonely find in the leader what they lacked elsewhere: unconditional attention, authority, certainty. But this relationship is asymmetric. The recruit depends entirely on the leader for validation, while the leader demands loyalty in return. Over time, even small decisions, what to eat, who to speak to, what to believe, are deferred upward. Autonomy shrinks. Dependency grows. The recruit thinks they have found guidance, but in truth, they have surrendered their compass. Once inside, questioning becomes dangerous. At first, doubts are met with gentle redirection. "You're just not ready to understand." Over time, they are labeled as weakness, even sin. The group creates thought-stopping cliches, short phrases repeated until they override doubt. "Trust the process." "The leader knows best." "Your mind is lying to you." These phrases act like mental walls, cutting off critical thought before it begins. Slowly, the recruit's inner dialogue is replaced with the group's slogans. What was once a questioning mind becomes an echo chamber. And in that chamber, only the cult's voice is heard. Loneliness makes people crave approval, but it also makes them vulnerable to guilt. Cults exploit this. Recruits are praised when they conform, but shamed when they falter. They are told their doubts hurt the group, that their hesitations betray the leader. Guilt binds more tightly than chains. It makes the vulnerable police themselves, punishing their own thoughts before the group ever needs to intervene. The cult no longer has to isolate them. They isolate themselves. This cycle of praise and shame creates dependency. Approval becomes addictive, guilt becomes unbearable, and the recruit learns that only obedience brings relief. To lock the cage, cults instill fear. The outside world is painted as dangerous, corrupt, even demonic. Former friends and family are recast as threats. Leaving the group is framed as spiritual death, or even literal doom. For the lonely recruit, who has already surrendered old bonds, this fear feels real. The group becomes both safe haven and prison. They cannot imagine surviving outside it. Fear is the wall that keeps them in, and loneliness is the lock that ensures they never try the door. Once loyalty is secure, exploitation begins. Recruits are pressured to donate money, work long hours, recruit others, or sever ties with personal property. All of this is framed as sacrifice for the greater good. The lonely, desperate for belonging, comply eagerly. After all, sacrifice proves loyalty, and loyalty ensures love. But what is sacrificed is rarely returned. Bank accounts are drained. Sleep is lost. Years disappear in service to a leader who gives little back. The cult does not just consume time and money, it consumes identity. The recruit becomes a tool, convinced they are fulfilling destiny even as they are being emptied. The final stage of control is the breaking of the self. Recruits are told that their old identities, their doubts, their individuality, their former lives, were the source of their pain. Only by surrendering completely can they be whole. This surrender is framed as healing, but it is annihilation. The recruit loses the I and becomes only we. Their loneliness is gone, but so is their autonomy. What remains is a hollow shell, filled with the group's voice. And in that hollowing, the cult achieves its goal: absolute control over the vulnerable soul who once only sought to belong. No system of control is flawless. Even in the tightest cage, cracks appear. For some recruits, it is exhaustion, endless work with no rest. For others, it is contradiction, the leader breaking their own rules, or a promise that never comes true. In these moments, the vulnerable glimpse reality. The illusion wavers. But doubt is terrifying. To question the group is to risk losing the only family they know. So many silence their doubts, pressing them down like embers under ash. Yet the cracks remain, waiting for the right spark to ignite them. Leaving a cult is not like walking out of a room. It is dismantling an entire identity. The recruit must face the fear that the outside world is dangerous, that loneliness will return, that without the group they are nothing. Many attempt to leave and return, caught between fear and hope. It is not weakness, it is conditioning. The bonds of belonging, even false belonging, run deep. To step away is to risk rejection, guilt, and terrifying isolation. And yet some do. They walk into the unknown, trembling but determined, fueled by the faint memory of freedom. For those who leave, loneliness often returns with brutal force. Old friends may be gone. Family may feel distant. Years lost in devotion cannot be reclaimed. The silence is deafening. This is why many return to the cult, not because they believe, but because they cannot endure the void. Survivors describe the first months as the hardest, nights filled with doubt, days shadowed by guilt. The cult may reach out, promising forgiveness, begging them to return. To resist requires strength most do not know they have. But if they endure, if they face the loneliness head-on, they can begin to rebuild. Recovery begins small. A single kind friend, a support group, a counselor who listens without judgment. Each connection is a thread, weaving a new fabric of belonging. It is fragile at first, but with time, it strengthens. Survivors learn that the antidote to loneliness is not blind devotion, but authentic connection, relationships built on choice, respect, and honesty. The journey is long, but each step away from the cult is also a step back toward the self. The voice of the leader fades. The survivor's own voice begins to return. Survivors often carry scars, but also wisdom. They remind us that cults do not prey on weakness, but on humanity's deepest needs: love, belonging, purpose. To be lonely is to be human. To be searching is to be alive. These qualities should never be sources of shame. What cults exploit, survivors reclaim. They show us that the same hunger for connection that once trapped them can also lead to true healing, if met with compassion and community rather than manipulation. Their stories shine a light in the darkness, proof that chains can be broken. Why do cults target the lonely and vulnerable? Because loneliness is power, can break us, or it can bind us. Cults know this. They weaponize isolation, turning human need into human captivity. But the truth is this: loneliness does not have to be a trap. It can also be a signal, a call to seek real, authentic bonds. And when answered with love, friendship, and community, it becomes strength instead of weakness. To understand this is to disarm the cult's greatest weapon. And to remember it is to ensure that no one, however lonely, need ever face the chains of false belonging again. Once again, if have not hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, you can do so for intriguing stories. Thank you for watching.